Hello, everybody. Welcome to another round of Lord Meher book reading. It's a Tuesday night in Mumbai, and here we go. We were talking about Love is Weeping, um, page number 895, 1928. In the early morning, a holiday was declared for the schoolboys to play games and enjoy themselves, and at noon the Mandali washed Baba's feet and recited his arti. Bomanji and his family returned after a brief absence. They were kept in Gadikar's room, and Gadikar was shifted to the post office. The next morning, Memo arrived to see Baba about her son Adi Jr., whom she had heard was not keeping well. She had a long discussion with Baba about sending one of her sons, either Behram or Jalbai, home to be married so that at least one of them would be there to look after Sherarji and herself in their old age. Baba would not commit himself, and Memo left in the evening without an answer. That day, Ramji came crying to Baba, lamenting that what little of Baba's light he had been seeing was now gone. Why? He asked, pleading. Why have you taken it away? Baba put Ramji's head on his lap and raised it again, putting his fingers on his forehead. He then asked, do you see it now? Yes, yes, Ramji exclaimed. Baba explained that Ramji was experiencing a slight opening of his inner third eye. Chota Baba was questioned further about his state the same day when asked what he remembered when he felt unconscious. Chota Baba said he remembered having seen Baba entering his body when he was being brought to consciousness, to the gross from the subtle, being given an enema. He said
Enema.
enema, A-N-E-M-A, right?
Enema,
Enema.
yeah.
Okay. He said it felt as if Shri was snatching away that bliss. That following, the following is Chota Baba's first-hand account related years later of what happened to him when the master lifted him to the sixth plane. One day, at the end of a discourse, Baba looked deeply into the faces of each child, one by one, and remarked, those whom I find worthy, I shall attract to the mistress of love, and I shall offer them the elixir of life. Children, only truth is real, all else is worthless. Although I do not have the strength to look into Baba's radiant countenance and lowered my eyes. He glanced at me, addressing me thus, try and be diligent. I shall make pure gold from your mixed alloy. The profound effect that his remark had upon me put me in a most bewildered state during that night and the next day while playing field hockey. My schoolmates were puzzled as they noticed my manner of standing, running, and also the color of my face change. At lunch, after at lunch after taking a few morsels, I suddenly felt a change overtaking me. I began to feel extraordinary heat, and everything began to get dark around me. Things actually began to vanish suddenly beyond my own volition. A weeping welled up from the depth of my being, and I began to weep. Within moments, I lost all consciousness of the people surrounding me and became insensible. After a short while, I found myself conscious again, repeating, I am far, I am far. Where is he and where am I? War Sahab tried to comfort me by reminding me of what Baba had promised to do for me. But the spontaneous weeping became louder and louder as my muscles were shivering, making my breathing deep and fast. I would quiet down for a while, only to start crying again. After about an hour, I began to calm down. I felt I was in a state of limbo between sleep and wakefulness. A feeling of bliss overtook me. I raised my head and found my beloved Baba sitting in front of me. His presence and the sight of his pure face once again moved me to tears, and unthinkably I fell at his holy feet. This time I was crying because I had disturbed him with my crying. He was concerned as he gazed at me. I was dazed, lost in the sea of oblivion. After 5 minutes or so, I became half aware and took a glass of milk from the beloved's hand and drank it per his wish. I sat in front of Baba, motionless as a statue, gazing with bewilderment at his unrivaled beauty. My eyes were wet with tears and my heart was burning in flames. In my heart, I was singing these lines about true love for God. Oh, beloved, I have lost myself. Yes, I desire to lose myself even more. I speak to your eyes, telling them, I want to be as drunk as you are. I don't want a crown. I don't seek a throne. I only want to be thrown as dust in your service. Who has ever had such a lovely idol as I have? Who has ever had a moon sweet as honey? The sight of your countenance makes the earth shake, as it will at the day of judgment. Yet in the paradise of your beauty, who would ever fear the fire of hell? My heart then pleaded to Baba as God, O life of my soul, without you neither does joy make me happy, nor does rapture intoxicate me. You are my life. Without you, I know not how to live. You are my eyes. Without you, I have no sight. As time passed by and weeks ended, the love of my beloved, my exalted master, became more apparent, and the fire became hotter and more burning. It finally reached such an extent that even while doing normal things such as eating and bathing, I would be drowned in thoughts of Baba. And there was not a moment that I could forget him. Weeks passed while I was being consumed in the intoxication of his love. Then, by December 1927, desire for food eventually left me, and I had abandoned the care of my body and clothes. Having become totally oblivious of my surroundings, I was lost in meditation and in the longing to behold the beauty of my Baba. His name was my meditation, and the thought of him, my remembrance of God. One night, as was usual, the children and Mandli had gathered around Baba, listening to him dictate a discourse. I found myself changed and began to see all around a radiant glow which betrayed the effulgence of the sun, quivering and flowing. I called out the beloved's name and instantly lost consciousness. I was unconscious for 5 hours, and when I regained consciousness, I was taken to Baba, who consoled me and asked me to sleep. After that experience, whenever I was in Baba's presence, I would first kiss his feet, but no matter how much I would kiss and press my head on his feet, it would not soothe my burning heart. Neither would it help the turmoil which had overtaken my heart. I was immersed in one thought, the thought of the beloved. Without meditating or contemplating, my soul was enjoying peace and bliss, and my eyes were fixed on his pure and noble face. A short while following this experience, the focus of my concentration was fully established, and I was in constant remembrance. I was so immersed in this natural meditation that during this period, I did not care about food and did not care whether I sat in the sun or rain. Many of my days were spent constantly weeping. It was in January 1928 when my inner state changed drastically. Sitting close to my beloved master, watching the sunset, I suddenly began to wail and scream and cry. Take over, Marwan.
My external eyes and my inner eye opened. I saw that my heart, my chest, all my limbs, veins, skin, and bones were overwhelmed and ruled by a being with such effulgence and glittering radiance that it brightened the most hidden corners of my heart. Awestruck by the sight of that radiant being, I forgot the world and all that was in it. Completely unaware of the apparent world and the people around me, I spent 5 days intoxicated in bliss and unconscious. During this time, the continuity of this vision remained unbroken, and I saw nothing but the glorious sight of his radiant and blessed being. I was in the height of bliss and joy because of this sight of him. I enjoyed this unique vision of my beloved and exalted master, Meher Baba, within my heart and soul throughout these 5 days. The visions of his glorious face made me hear a voice within me declaring, "Remove your shoes, you are on holy ground." Because of this blissful vision of reality, I understood that the world, with all its belongings and luxuries, is really like a dream, an illusion, and that it is truly a binding. I realized that getting hold of a true and perfect master is the cause of eternal freedom and satisfaction. At that time, I was told that Meher Baba mentioned to the Mandali that I had progressed to the sixth plane, and it was then that I was called Chota Baba. Another boy, Aga Ali, was one of the master's favorites in the Prem ashram, and he too had been having glimpses of Baba's divinity. Ali's spiritual nature was most remarkable for someone so young. His love for Baba was admirable and truly inspiring. The Mandali, however, noticed that from the second week of January 1928, Baba began keeping aloof from Ali, who desired only to stay near Baba. If Baba called him, he would send Ali back after only a minute. Ali began feeling extremely restless due to this treatment and was overcome with anxiety. On the 17th of January, Baba kept calling Ali back to him as often as 10 times that day, but each time he sent him back immediately on some pretext. Afterward, observing how Ali was seething within, Baba remarked, even in divine intoxication, the head should always be on the master's feet. On Sunday, 29 January 1928, Baba revealed, Ali is now fit for my touch. That evening, criticizing Ali before the other children, Baba remarked, these days Ali is more attentive to his studies. He has forgotten me. He thinks only of his father and longs to be reunited with him. Hearing these words, Ali lost control over himself. He felt his heart break and he began weeping. He started running about aimlessly. Baba directed Rayo Sahab to catch him and bring him back. Baba then held him in his arms, patted and kissed his head, consoling him. But Ali could not help himself and sobbed convulsively for several hours. At last, Baba touched Ali's chest with his own head 2 or 3 times. Immediately, Ali became quiet and his restlessness subsided. He seemed to be asleep. After 15 minutes, Baba instructed Rayo Saheb to try to rouse him, but Ali did not open his eyes or stir. When his eyelids were lifted, his pupils appeared lifeless. He was questioned, but he did not respond. Baba himself shook him, but there was no response. Keeping his head on his heart, Baba tried to listen to his heartbeats. Sometime later, on a sign from Baba, Rayo Saheb asked Ali, how do you feel? Ali replied in a barely audible whisper, as if speaking from far, far away. Khush, happy. Rayo Saheb asked, what do you see? Baba, he replied. Where? Everywhere. Baba had him taken to the hospital, where one of the men was told to look after him. That night, Baba remained sitting in the upper portion of his room until about 2 in the morning, frequently asked about Ali. As mentioned, Baba selected about 20 boys and kept them with him in his cabin throughout the day. 2 others, strict orders were given to go to school and attend to all functions punctually, adhering to the timetable on penalty of being sent away. Padre made every possible arrangement to keep Ali comfortable in the hospital. The next day, 30 January 1928, Ali began moving about, but his condition was far from normal and his eyes were vacant. Rayo Saheb asked Baba why he showed apparent partiality in the bestowing of his grace on Chota Baba Rajaram. Baba replied, in the case of Rajaram, he tried on his own and got it, divine sight, himself. He tried very, very hard and most sincerely too, and got it. I myself have not given anything. Actually, it is his destiny, and I cannot interfere. In cases where I myself have personally given something, such as Chota Baba, when I cannot interfere for a certain reason, how can I interfere in this case where all efforts were his own? Of course, I can help him and give him a push and do him much good, but I am only afraid for his health, for he may drop the body at any moment, which is not desirable. He must remain conscious as much as possible, and that is why I am feeling much concerned in his case too. In such cases, may either drop the body or go crackers, or the curtain, the veil, may be opened. The curtain must be opened by his own efforts, as he himself tried to see without my interfering. To others, I may give divine sight. I can help them. Even in these cases, too, I can't interfere for 2 days at least. Anyway, if Raja Ram dies, even now or afterwards also, he will be in me. I have already tried, in his case, 2 or 3 times to bring him to the proper conscious state, but seeing his already too weakened body, I had to give up. No one can imagine how Meher Baba suffered the whole night of the 30th to bring Ali, Raja Ram, and Chota Baba down from that spiritual state. Chandji noted in his diary, Abdullah's condition getting worse, quite dangerous and harmful. Heartbeats were quite fast, and people said if it goes on like this, the heart will stop beating. The whole night Baba was awake and sat near Chota Baba's head all the time, and also during the day. Till 4 in the morning, Baba was continuously involved with Abdullah. The state of Abdullah was so delicate that Baba himself became sick. He took it upon himself. On Tuesday, 31 January 1928, Baba appeared exhausted and did not even come to the window of his room, but remained inside most of the day. Rao Saheb stayed with Baba, and Chota Baba, whose health too had not yet improved, while Rustam took over Rao Saheb's duties in the school. Baba had a private talk with Rustam that day, and Gulmai also visited and was permitted to sit on the platform outside Baba's cabin for some time. Chota Baba became more conscious that day and wept before Baba, pleading with him, please give me the tongue so that I may speak and declare to the world that I have been seeing you everywhere at all times. I will speak with the force of real experience of having seen for myself. However, Baba ordered him to keep quiet for the present and stated that he would decide later when Chota Baba was stronger. Okay, Mona, who's the next reader?
Rosalie, can we have you next?
The youth was fed rice and milk the next day, the first time in about 20 days that he had eaten. Ali was ordered to resume his studies, which he did from 1st February, along with some of the other boys who had not been attending school. Raja Ram was ordered to stay and sleep in the staff quarters from that day. Meherji received a letter informing him of his father's illness, and he was permitted to leave for Navsari by the evening train. KJ Dastur had left on the 31st for Bombay, but returned to Meherabad on the morning of 2nd February and was given 2 hours of teaching duty at the school. At 4 that afternoon, however, Dastur became acting strangely, rolling on the ground and crying like a child. This state lasted for more than 4 hours until 8:30 p.m. After he calmed down, after Archie, Baba offered him a sip of tea, which he swallowed with difficulty. He complained that he found it hard to breathe. Baba explained to the other men. Dastur readily followed my advice of thinking of me and creating love for me. He did it so sincerely and with so much dedication that for the last month, he has hardly spent 5 minutes without thought of me and suffered terribly. The extent of his agony can be judged from his difficulty in breathing. He hasn't eaten anything for the last few days. Only I know how he has suffered, like a fish out of water. The other Mandali had criticized Dastur, thinking he was troubling Baba by coming to his cabins often and putting his head on Baba's lap. But Baba remarked Dastur's love, in a way, even exceeds that of Swami Ram Tirtha, who too was a learned MA. 5 days later, after taking Baba's darshan, Dastur said that he could see a brilliant light. Where? Baba asked him. Dastur said that he saw it on all sides, and he kept his eyes shut. Have you any pain? Baba inquired. Dastur replied that his agony had disappeared and he was quite happy. Then he began singing Baba's Arti, waving his hands as if dancing, and reciting passages from Vivekananda. Oh, what bliss, he declared. I want to wash the feet of our master with my blood for showing me this light. Why do you wish to wash your master's feet with your blood? He was asked. To demonstrate my respect, he stated. Baba embraced him for 4 or 5 minutes, and Dastur was able to stop crying. He was taken to his room by Behram, where he fell asleep. Soon he awoke and called for Bua Sahib, saying that blood had risen to his brain and was clotting. This was what Baba had previously mentioned to the Mandali. The ashram doctor was summoned immediately and ordered to give Dastur an enema. While taking it, Dastur told the doctor, "Take out my blood so that I may wash Shri's feet with it." It was amazing to the Mandali that this intellectual author and lawyer, who, when he had first come to Meherabad, hesitated even to sit on the ground while talking to Baba, was now uninhibitedly rolling in the dust and weeping. Dastur became unmindful of the others around him and of the adverse weather conditions. During a rainstorm on the 3rd, he had become drenched while sitting on the ground by Baba's gadi. Baba later commented about Dastur. He has earned what he has received, but even now, what he has experienced is very little. It is nothing compared with the real sight and union. He has only glimpsed the divine light, and even this seeing is not permanent. If he endures the strain, I will make it permanent. Otherwise, if his power of seeing stops, he will have to struggle and suffer terribly. Because now that he has actually tasted my wine, if his mind strays, the agony will be so severe, he may be driven insane, leave the body, or commit suicide. But if he stands the strain, he will then see me in this light, and that will be permanent. And if he is fortunate enough to see that and me, being a universally educated man who holds advanced degrees, he will create havoc, be a force to reckon with, for he will speak with actual experience of what he has seen, more authoritatively and more forcibly than others without experience. Sailor and Sadashiv arrived on the morning of Sunday, 5th February 1928, but both left that evening after meeting Baba privately. Sailor was instructed to return to Meherabad on Baba's birthday and stay for some days. The same day, Gopal Swami came out of the Sada ashram, saying he had received all that he desired and now wished to leave. Baba permitted it. The next evening at 5 p.m., after coming out of the toilet, Baba mentioned the possibility of fasting and going into seclusion for 7 days before his birthday. Two Zoroastrian priests, N. Namdar Dastur of Bombay and Shesher Yar, Irani of Persia, met Baba on the 7th, and the master explained to them about Zoroaster. The prayer books of all religions, Avesta of the Parsis, the Quran of Islam, Bible of the Christians, etc., are all written by priests and have nothing whatsoever to do with the truth. Zoroaster meant for Agni, fire, to burn your heart in love of God. The Dasturs murdered the meaning and changed it to burning in the external sense of the sacred fire. So also, other religious dogmas and doctrines of Kusti, prayers of the Avesta, are all ceremony and rituals. Take one name of God sincerely, lovingly, devotedly, for a few minutes each day without the thought of anything else. And that is much more beneficial than hours of prayers recited mechanically, the mind being all the while engaged and occupied in worldly affairs. Zoroaster had 14 disciples whom he realized. There was one whom he realized after the 14. From him, the knowledge and experience of God was passed on from father to son for 700 years. But after Dastur Azar Kaiban, who became a perfect master, a false, deceitful Dastur obtained the sacred Gadi and started collecting money. Those Dasturs who followed him decreed as they thought. After them, until the present, there has been no realized person among Zoroastrians. Whatever religious books Avesta the Zoroastrians have got now are books of these Dasturs and not of Zoroaster. Zoroaster taught and gave out gems of truth, gems of Sufism, but they are not known to people. To his special 14 disciples, he gave real knowledge and experience. To others, the world, he gave them tariqat of Sufism, laws, rules, regulations, etc. There were tremendous changes in the doctrines set down by Zoroaster, made by the false Dasturs. The same is true with Christ's Bible, Muhammad's Quran, etc. Suppose after I give experience to some, the members of my circle go out in the world and lecture before people. These lectures will be taken down by people, and they will hereafter be taken as to constitute the next Avesta, Bible, Quran, Vedas, etc. These too will undergo various changes under different hands as time goes by. So my best advice to you is to create love for God. Earn something by your own efforts and in my contact. Otherwise, if you spend your time in discussions on religious doctrines and dogmas, it will take you nowhere.
Oh, thank you. Renee, can you have you next, please? Thank you.
You gotta
I like-
unmute, Rainey.
I like that word. It is all rigmarole. And will waste your precious time, which might better be used in thinking of God, meditating, and creating love. Love is the sum and substance of all religions and the only essential of all creeds. Leave the rigmarole alone.
Okay, Rainey, pick it up.
904 Lovers Weeping 1928. Leave the rigmarole. What a rigmarole. Alone. For example, the alphabet is taught to a child to make him begin to learn the language. But if he merely learns the alphabet without any efforts at proceeding further, he will learn practically nothing. It is the same in religion. The Shariat, doctrines, and dogmas are given as a preliminary beginning, like the alphabet. To reach the ultimate aim of realization of the truth, after one masters the fundamentals, one advances. But if a person merely sticks to religious ceremonies and rituals and believes that religion is that alone, then he does not advance at all. God and truth are far, far above Shariat, doctrines and dogmas, rituals and ceremonies. Namdur Dastur had been searching for God for many years and had contacted different gurus. But after meeting Baba, he told Chanji, "I thank the Almighty for bringing me here. I feel quite a different atmosphere from what I have experienced at other ashrams. Here, I internally feel the divine light, which I've not felt elsewhere. No one else I have met has so boldly declared themselves to be God as Sri has as Sri so lightly did. He actually gave me proof of his being God, as I internally felt and understood what he said to be true. Namdar returned to Meherabad after a few weeks and was permitted to stay with the Mandali for some months. Shereria was given the duty of teaching a Persian class. About Ali, on the 4th, Baba commented, "The more Ali sleeps, the more conscious he becomes." That day, the 7th, Baba remarked, "Today Ali was so ready that with one embrace from me, he would have been drowned. I was at the point of doing it, but I stopped myself." In the evening of the 7th of February, Baba gave an example to the Mandali about the importance of obeying his orders. The best way of all for a disciple is to obey the orders of his guru, without using his mind and thinking over its merits or demerits. For instance, suppose Sidhu comes to me at noon and says, the best way of all for a disciple to obey the orders of his guru without using his mind and thinking over its merits or demerits. For instance, suppose Sidhu comes to me at noon and says that he's very thirsty. Considering the weather conditions and time, I may give him a cold drink. Now suppose Dastur comes to me at night in cold, chilly weather and says that he is thirsty. I may prescribe hot coffee for him. Considering the prevalent cold temperature. Now if Dastur remonstrates and mentally argues about why Sidhu was given a cold drink and himself coffee when both were thirsty, it's useless. He must only obey. It is the same with saints and prophets who have given different doctrines and rules for attaining the same goal of truth. For these doctrines were given at different times and under different circumstances. These doctrines are therefore not to be mistaken for any error or superiority of importance of one over the other. They are ways to reach the same goal, and when given by a realized being, they must be mechanically followed if truth is to be realized. No argument, no discussion, no remonstrance. So, my good boys, listen to what I say. Obey my orders, and each of you will eventually gain something, each according to his own worth. The spiritual Ganga, the Ganges, is now flowing at Meherabad. So wash your face and feet with its waters if you are not destined to drink it. Time is passing, and vain discussions will waste your time and take you nowhere. Be aware. Dastur seemed improved on the 8th, and he was calm and happy, enjoying the state of bliss and loudly chanting his favorite divine poems in praise of God. Dastur reported that he saw with open eyes what he had seen the day before with his eyes shut, and also that he saw much more light than what he had seen previously. While Dastur was recovering from his experience, it was Sidhu's responsibility to look after him, and he was instructed not to leave Dastur unattended. But that day, for just a short while, he left Dastur alone. Baba somehow found out and reprimanded Sidhu for making this mistake while performing his duty. Meherji returned from Navsari on the morning of the 9th. That day, Baba reprimanded one of the boys, Abbas Khan, for not doing the 5-minute meditation. When the boy claimed that he had meditated, Baba replied, Well, I did not receive it. So you must not have done it sincerely and with love, as I instructed. It's only a question of 5 minutes, not 5 hours, days, months, or years. It's an easy assignment, but it must be done very, very strictly and sincerely. Ramaji and Aga Ali complained that whatever they had been seeing had disappeared. Baba lightly touched their eyes and forehead and restored their sight again, once again, they confirmed. Baba noted the general indifference and disregard among the Zoroastrian boys in creating Prem. The Hindus, and particularly Muslim boys, rank much higher in this respect, he observed. On the 10th, the Shabad stones on the platform outside the window of Baba's crypt room were paved. The Samadhi. On Tuesday, 14 February 1928, Baba appointed his brother Behram Assistant Superintendent of Meher Ashram. 2 days later, a man came for Baba's darshan and requested the master name his newborn child. Baba had him sit down among the Mandali and Ashram boys, but did not pay much attention to him. During the meeting, one of the Mandali reminded Baba that the person was seeking his advice. Baba gave the Mandali member a smouldering look, then changed the topic. If you marry, you incur 7 more new births. It is for this reason that saints and realized masters advise their devotees to lead an unmarried life. These 7 births go on multiplying as you proceed, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. For example, 7 by 7 equals 49. 7 equals 343. 43 by 7, and so on. How many former wives you have left in your past, how many former wives and husbands have left you in your past lives, and how many new ones you will come into contact with in the future. None of the past wives do you remember, nor will you know of those to come. Hence, if at all you want to marry, marry me. A marriage with me means so much regard, affection, and love for only me. Such thought and remembrance of me demands a great deal indeed, much, much more love than even that of yogis of ancient times. So marry me. Marriage with me means love, peace, and bliss. Ordinary marriage with a woman means jagada, lightning I think it means, and 1,001 worries arising therefrom. Oh, fighting. Ordinary marriage with a woman means jagada, fighting, and 1,001 worries arising therefrom. After the person and boys had left, Baba lashed out at the Mandali who had spoken out because he made a mistake of mentioning marriage in front of the ashram boys. Baba warned him never ever do it again. Later that same day, Baba commented, I actually advised my own mother this morning to take my name 1,000 times daily. It will be good if she does. Otherwise, let Memo and the family suffer for not heeding my advice. Thinking of material things will never satisfy her or those akin to me.
All right, Rainey, thank you. We got a next reader up.
Elizabeth.
Okay. Let me sit down just a second. I'm getting there. Okay, where are we?
Right at the top.
907, love is weeping. The intoxicating effects of the master's wine had disturbed the routine of the school. However, from the 2nd of February, 1928, Baba had again ordered the 20 select boys to attend the school regularly and be attentive to their studies. Some boys wanted only to sit near Baba and not study, but Baba made them resume their classes. Aga Ali carried out Baba's wish, and upon seeing his example, the other boys complied as well. Their studies now took on added force, and the teaching was imparted according to the prescribed curriculum. The boys were to appear for their final exams in the missionary school in Ahmednagar, and it was astonishing that in the end all passed with good marks. The boys' experiences over the previous 2 months, such as weeping uncontrollably out of love, caused false rumors to arise elsewhere. Some parents were saying, Meher Baba is proselytizing to our children and turning them against their own religions. Some of the Muslims were saying, why should we allow our children to be kept near Meher Baba? He makes them touch his feet and is trying to convert them to Zoroastrianism. Others exaggerated what they heard was happening at Meherbad and were anxious about it. If our children are losing their sanity there, they fretted, the boys have given up their studies and are being taught meditation and yoga. They will become sannyasis, renunciants, and give up everything material. It is better if they were removed from the school. Still others claimed the boys are being forcibly detained in the ashram to extract ransoms from their parents. Baba's order for the boys to return to their studies was, in effect, a ploy meant to alleviate the misunderstandings in their minds of some of the parents. It was rumored that their children were not paying enough attention to their studies. The boys were taken into confidence and told that they must appear to be studying hard. Otherwise, they were liable to be taken away by their guardians, who had started coming to Meherbad to see for themselves what was going on. Thus, at the end of January 1928, these and other rumors were circulating, and correspondence was received, making all sorts of inquiries. Each letter was answered, assuring the parents that their children were being given the best possible care. Some of the parents were not convinced and arrived at Meherbad to remove their sons from the school and take them home. By February, 7 of the Hindu children had been removed from the MEHER ashram school. Some of the Muslim parents from Bombay also came, demanding the return of their children. The Manjali tried to explain the facts of the situation, and in some cases were successful in persuading the parents to allow their boys to remain in the ashram. Occasionally, Baba would call some of the boys and listen to them reading their lessons, but he never once called Ali Akbar, Shapoorzaman, Alaba. One morning at 9, however, Baba suddenly called him. Seated at the door of the underground cabin, Baba told him to bring his English and Persian books. Rao Sahab was also called. Baba asked Shapoorzaman to read a sentence, which Baba himself selected from each book. After he finished, Baba signaled for him to go. No one knew why the master had done this on this particular day. But for that afternoon, it became clear when Shapurzaman's uncle from Bay arrived in a tonga and demanded that both his nephew and his son be handed over to him. Thus, after being in the ashram for 10 months, Shapurzaman left for Bombay. Age noted regretfully, Alaba and his cousin were forced to leave the abode of love, but no one could take away their love. Their awakened hearts were breaking, but their spirits were uniting with the beloved who fulfills such sincere longing with his constant presence. On Friday, 17th February 1928, Baba mentioned that two of the boys, Aga Ali and Muhammad Hussein, were almost ready for a spiritual push, requiring only the last touch. There was a long discussion with Rao Sahab, Bao Sahab, and Baidul about these two boys, whose fathers had not yet signed the agreement regarding keeping their sons in the ashram for a stipulated period of time. Suddenly that morning, Muhammad Hussein's elder brother came to take him and another boy, Abbas Ali, away from the ashram. Baba became very sad and serious when he was informed and retired inside, refusing to see any of the visitors and telling all to leave. Hussein began crying loudly and tried to run away. As the tonga was about to drive away that evening, the boy jumped down and Raha Sahab had to catch him. His brother was angry and beat him severely, making him sit once again in the tonga. Breaking down then, Hussein pleaded with Rao Sahab, please go tell Baba that I am being forcibly taken away. I can never forget him. Through my tears, I beg Baba not to forget the promise he has given me. Hussein continued to weep bitterly as the tonga rode off. How could Hussein's brother appreciate the agony of divine love? He who tastes the divine wine alone knows what joyful suffering there is in love. Meanwhile, most touching of all, Baba too had tears in his eyes. Chanji bitterly described it as a black letter day for Meherabad. That night, Baba did not retire in the crypt, but remained aloof, telling Rustam not to come up with the visitors for Arti at 9 o'clock, as usual. Baba sat talking in the upper portion of his cabin, discussing Hussein's situation with Rao Sahab and Boa Sahab. Baba did not sleep much that night, nor did the boys, who stayed awake until 2 a.m. Kabir's lines about grinding grain on a hand mill are apropos of the pain felt. At the sight of the grinding stones working, Kabir burst into tears. None who is caught between the stones is saved. What Baba's tears were for, no one really knows, but they express the deep love he had for the young boys and empathy he felt for the sorrow in their hearts. The other boys who witnessed the scene of their friends being forcibly taken home were sick with worry, fearing that the same fate might befall them. So the Song of Wine was muted the next day on Saturday, 18th February 1928, Baba's 34th birthday. When Ghani, Munshiji, Babu, Saikolwala, Ramju, his sister Amina, and her husband Abdullah, Sadashiv, Rupamai, and Hormuzji Karani and Namdar Dastur arrived in the morning, they found Baba to be in an unpleasant, dejected mood because of the events of the previous evening and his subsequent sleepless night. At first, he actually canceled the whole celebration, but considering how far the visitors had come, he rescinded the order and gave permission for the usual darshan program. Accordingly, at 9 in the morning, his feet were washed, first by the ashram boys, and then by the women and men mandali. At 11 o'clock, Gustaji, Rustam, Naval, and Mohan Shahani gave Baba a bath. Darshan concluded with the singing of Baba's arti. The people were asked to go enjoy their lunch. Qawwali and other musical programs were held in the late afternoon until 6, and again in the night, featuring Abdur Rahman. But the music and singing did not lighten Baba's melancholy mood. Next page.
Thank you. Mona, who's up next?
I guess
Marian?
Mahu is back.
Mahu?
Who?
Marian,
Oh
you'll be
yeah,
after me.
Marian. Marian, sorry.
Who did she call?
Okay, ready to go.
Yeah,
Mahu.
sorry.
Oh, I'm
Let
sorry,
Marian go and then
Marianne.
Mahu. Yeah, best Marian can go and then Mahu.
Did you say Marion?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah, we
didn't-
skipped Marianne, yeah.
Marion.
It's okay.
Thank you. Love is weeping. On the 19th, all were ordered to leave Meherabad after having personal meetings with Baba. Kakushru Masa wanted to return to Bombay, where he had worldly responsibilities to fulfill, but Baba persuaded him to remain at Meherabad. On 20 February, a telegram was received from Aga Ali's father, Haji Muhammad, who refused to give his signature to the agreement and demanded that his son return home. The news upset Baba, who remarked sharply, "If Ali goes, everything goes. I will come out of seclusion and close the school." Jamshed Khan was sent to Bombay to reason with the father and bring him to Meherabad.
Footnote, 4 Persian boys from Shiraz had arrived that morning. 3 were permitted to stay at Meherabad, and the oldest was taken to Bombay with Jamshed Khan, where he obtained a job.
Baba also agreed to pay off the father's debts. Eventually, Ali was allowed to stay in Meherabad. On the 21st, Baba stated, "If this case of Aga Ali is settled, all will be well. The ashram will flourish. All castes, even foreigners, will come. If not, all will be upset. I will go after Ali and do the work even there in Bombay, staying near him if I have to." Baba explained to the Mandali that the reason he was so concerned about Ali was that Ali has some great connection with me and with the making, meaning advancement, of 3 to 4 other boys. Besides, the seed of divine love has already been planted in this boy by me. If not properly nourished and taken care of, it would seriously affect the boy. He will either go mad or leave his body. At the very least, he won't be able to apply his mind in worldly affairs. A few days later, Baba said, "The making of the boys is a special thing for the world to see. It has nothing to do with the circle." On the 22nd, other Muslim parents came from Bombay and removed 3 more boys from the ashram. They claimed that they did not like their sons bowing down to Meher Baba, which was against their religion. Ironically, one of them was almost persuaded to remain in Meherabad to teach Islamic religious tenets to the Muslim children. And he was even offered the same salary per month, rupees 150, which he was presently earning. However, he did not accept Baba's offer as he had never taught before. On the 23rd, Ali's father sent his business partner to bring his son back to Bombay. But the partner left when the importance of Ali's remaining in the school was impressed upon him, and when he saw how well Ali was being treated. Baba's original refusal to admit Ali when he had first come to Meherabad in November was due to his father's vacillating temperament, which the Mandali were now observing. On Friday, 24 February 1928, the school opened at the new ashram premises with a daily period for sports. Discussions continued about Aga Ali's father, and Baba again repeated that if he took his son away, everything would be closed. The next day, Haji Muhammad himself came to Meherabad, and this time he insisted on taking his son home. Rao Sahib spent hours trying to persuade him to let Ali stay, and in the end, Haji again agreed to this. Rao Sahib wrote out a new agreement, but in the meantime, another Muslim arrived to remove his son. After talking with that person for only a few minutes, Haji changed his mind again and said he was going to take Ali home. This enraged Rao Sahib, who asked him if he intended to break his word. Ali's father said yes and remained adamant. He was not prepared to let his son stay in Meherabad for one more day. When Ali was informed of his father's attitude, he took his penknife to his throat and swore, "I will solve the problem. This knife will be the cause of separating me from my father forever." Rao Sahib described the boy's state of mind to Baba, who sent for Ali and scolded him. "Never think of doing such a thing. If you are taken away, I will either come out of seclusion or close the school." Ali's father, still obstinate, took his son away that day. Ali was quiet when he took his seat in the Tonga. Only his beloved knew the pain piercing his heart. After Aga Ali had left with his father, Baba asked Vishnu how long had he been in seclusion and fasting. He was informed that he had been fasting since 10 November, 107 days, and that he had been in seclusion since the 20th of December, 67 days. Baba remarked, "I have grown very weak. I will leave this seclusion shortly and commence eating. My object is not fulfilled, and I will have to do it all over again." Thank God, even in the case of other boys, and this is with a quote, "Thank God, even if the case of other boys is left undone, at least one Abdullah is made. Otherwise, had the ashram continued, it would have created saints of the boys, and the world would have actually seen and been convinced. Let it go. It's luck. Never again am I going to establish such a wine shop. End of quote. Baba then ordered, no one under any circumstances should touch me for the next 10 days unless I order otherwise. I will be very sick. Chagan was sent to the station to see if Ali was still there. Khan Sahib arrived late at 11 p.m. The next morning, Sunday, 26 February 1928, Baba informed the Mandali that he would come out of seclusion sometime that day. He discussed the situation of Ali's abrupt removal, and a few of the men suggested that one of them go to Bombay and try to convince Ali's father to allow the boy to return. Baba liked the suggestion and promptly sent Baidul and Rao Sahib to Bombay, emphasizing to them the importance of bringing Ali back within 7 days. Baba had previously warned that if Ali left, he would close down all the activities at Meherabad. Accordingly, he now ordered a group of the Mandali to begin pulling down some of the temporary structures on the hill. At the same time, Baba directed another group to repair and erect a few new structures. With Ali's departure, Baba was acting most peculiarly in the eyes of the men. On the one hand, he gave orders for the demolition of buildings, and on the other, he gave orders for construction of new ones. He also stated that if he closed everything, he would travel so much that the world will stop spinning. Whoever of the Mandali wants to come may come. We will beg for our food. 2 or 3 of the boys who are ready can be taken. Baba came out of his seclusion in the crypt cabin that very day at 5:45 p.m. The rickshaw was decorated with flowers, and Baba took his seat in it. The Prem Ashram boys pulled the rickshaw from the hill down to lower Meherabad. As the rickshaw halted near the Duni, a strange supernatural phenomena occurred. A blinding light suddenly flashed, and a flame rose up from the Duni when Baba came near it. Those who caught a glimpse of it were dazzled. In a few moments, the flame disappeared. Afterward, Baba was carried in the rickshaw to various places in Meherabad. It had been 2 months since Baba visited the women Mandali in their quarters at the bathroom building, and their joy was boundless. During the period of Baba's seclusion, he took only 1 pint of coffee made by Meher, which she sent to him every day in a flask with the boy named Lahu.
Oh, Mahu, go ahead. You're up now.
Okay, very good. So page 913 in year 1928. But while taking the flask up the hill, Lahu would hide in a gully and drink half the contents, and then, recapping the flask, he would take the rest to Baba. At the time, Baba never asked why the flask was only half filled, but now that he was out of seclusion, he inquired of Mera. I was fasting for months on 1/2 a flask of coffee when I had clearly told you to send a full flask each day. Mera was taken aback and said, "But Baba, I feel the flask myself. It was always full." Naja and Khurshid confirmed this. Later, Baba called Lahu and asked him to explain the mystery. The boy, excuse me, the boy honestly admitted his mischief, and because he told the truth, Baba forgave him. Baba smiled and remarked, quote, "I was having the Lahu's prasad every day." Baba then returned to the Duni and sat there quiet still for about 15 minutes. He remarked cryptically, quote, "The Duni was just passed word to me that we should all continue our routine and go on with the work as before." This was understood in reference to his earlier comments that he would be closing the school. Baba was pulled up the hill in the rickshaw and retired again to his underground crypt. The 4 men staying in the Sadhak ashram were ordered to end their seclusion, but Baba's fast of 2 cups of coffee per day continued. For the next 5 days, according to Baba's orders, both the demolition and construction work went on. From his recent comments near the Duni that the routine would continue, the Mandali felt certain that the school would not be closed. All the other activities went on as before, and there was so slackening in the children's education or in other matters. As soon as Baidul and Rose Sahib arrived in Bombay on the 26th, they sent a promising telegram about bringing Ali back. But Baba still appeared very unhappy over his absence. For most of the next day, Baba remained inside the underground cabin, moving in a restless state up and down between the upper portion of the room and the crypt. He would sit in the cabin for a while, then he would descend the stairs to the crypt, remaining there for only a few minutes, and again he would come up. These strange movements were repeated time and time again throughout the day.
Thank you, Mahu. P.S. Can we have you next?
I'm sorry, I haven't read my 3 pages yet.
I know, but you look you're sneezing and you
No,
can't
I'm
move.
good. I'm good. I'd
Well,
like to
we
continue.
have 5 more minutes to end the thing. So I saw that you seemed really sick, so I thought she could read.
Well, you stop us in a little train of thought. I wanted to continue. This is very important to me because I have connection with Kremashon. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Go ahead, Maho, finish because
Go ahead.
we could start next week with the next reader. Go ahead, because there's only 3 minutes now. Go ahead and read.
Okay. In addition, Baba would change his position every few minutes, first sitting and then lying down, then turning over. At 10 a.m., Baba went to Bailey's room, where he remained for about 15 minutes. At 10:30, he told those near him that he was dying, and naturally, the Mandali became extremely concerned. The school was ordered closed after the 11:45 recess. Baba came out of the crypt again at 3:15 p.m. and sat in the dining hall for a few minutes before returning to the crypt. He came out at 5 p.m. and went to Lower Mehrabad, returning at 6:30 p.m. As the day passed, Baba seemed quite ill, and by sunset, his eyes were half closed and looked vacant. His hands and feet had grown cold, and his entire body was limp and lifeless. Thus, though the news from Bombay was hopeful, Baba appeared withdrawn and disheartened. After exerting himself by going to Lower Mehrabad, his condition seemed to worsen. Indeed, Baba spelled on the board, "I am God, I am everywhere, I am in everything. I am the source of all, bliss and power. I who give life to all, how can I die? From my shoulder to my toe, there is numbness. Still, I am not going to die until I am 95 years old." Arti was performed at 9 p.m. with all sitting quietly with him for half an hour. Baba's condition was due to his universal work, and its medium at the time was Ali. While doing this work, Baba wanted the boy near him to lessen his suffering. It is incomprehensible, but to move the world, the master could use a small boy as his medium, and for this great purpose, unknown to mankind, he would protect and nourish the child with all his heart. The following day, Tuesday, 28 February 1928, a discouraging telegram was received saying that Ali's father and other relatives were not willing to send Ali back to Mehrabad. But strangely enough, Baba was in a good mood that day, despite this disappointing news. In the morning, he went to the women's quarters and asked for a sari, draping it around himself and wearing a dhoti and a crown the women had fashioned. Baba walked around Mehrabad and distributed some fruits someone had brought. The photographer S.S. Dean was called from Ahmednagar to photograph Baba and the children. The next day, Baba spoke about Jesus and his parables, and again stated that after Jesus' crucifixion, he went to Kashmir, where he died.
Okay, we're going to hold it right there.
Thank you.
We'll pick it up right at the bottom of that page next week. All
Which
right,
is
Hey,
page
so
Marvin, what did
914.
he say after Baba went where he died?
Kashmir.
Kashmir.
But did he say after his purification or after his crucifixion?
Crucifixion.
Crucifixion.